What's up, YouTube? JD Horror here. I'm really excited about this story. It's written in a first-person point of view. I've never written a story in this fashion, but I really like the way it turned out. I want to give a quick shout out to someone who's becoming a really good friend of mine, Uncanny Horror. If you don't know who he is, go check out his channel. He's an amazing writer and narrator. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description. If you like this video and want to hear more original creepypasta content, hit that like button and subscribe. Oh yeah, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any new stories. And with that, let's get into this story. Turn off the lights, get cozy, and embrace the creepy. I wake up in the morning and I see Troy. He stares at me from the corner of my bedroom, always watching me. Damn, this place is a mess. He looks at me as if he's judging me like the smug asshole he probably was when he was alive. I know people like that and they piss me off. He was 43 years old at the time of his death and balding. He was one of those sleazy car salesmen who would give you a great deal knowing that the car he just sold you would break down within a month. He was divorced with 2 kids whom he only saw the first and third weekend of every month. When he wasn't working or suffering through visits with his children, he was at the bar getting drunk, like sloppy drunk. And he tipped like shit. For Troy, it's different now. He's missing an eye. He was actually held down by straps and it was crudely scooped out with a box cutter, then his murderer forced it down his throat. That must have been horrible for him. I wonder if he watched himself choke to death. He's missing a few other appendages as well, all of which were removed while he was still conscious and breathing. Can you please stop looking at me like that, dude? This happens every morning. There's nothing I could do about it till I hit the head. Like, come on, man. Troy isn't the only ghost I see, but he was the first one. He hasn't left my side in over 6 years now. By my count, I'll see 16 murder victims throughout my day. I get out of bed and I make my way to the washroom to relieve myself after a solid 8 hours of sleep. I sleep like a baby. I know who I'll see in there, Crystal. She was 25 when she met her demise, and she's a special one. When her body was found, it was immediately ruled a suicide. It wasn't, though. She was stalked for 3 weeks. Her every move was watched and noted. She didn't even know she was being hunted until she woke up in her bathtub already bleeding out. There was nothing she could do. Her murderer watched her take her last breath. What a way to wake up in the morning. Unlike Troy, she won't or can't follow me around and watch me all day every day. She mostly stays in the tub all naked and wrinkly. I've offered her a towel many times to cover up, or for fuck's sakes get out of the damn bath so other people could take a shower. Shit. I turn my back to them both to avoid their judging eyes as I awkwardly position my morning salute. I sigh as the 8 hours of collected fluid drains from my bladder. I flush the toilet, adjust the pants I slept in, and turn around. I shake my head in disappointment looking Troy in his one remaining eye as I walk past him and exit the washroom. I hear him limping behind me as I walk down the hallway of my 1-bedroom apartment. It sounds wet as he hobbles after me on the blood-dripping stump left at the bottom of his ankle. The mess he would be making if he wasn't a ghost, that would really piss me off. But I try to ignore the phantom anger building up in me. I enter my kitchen and I hit start on my coffee machine. I pick up the remote on the counter that separates the kitchen and the living room and turn on the TV that's mounted on the wall. On the couch, now staring at me, is Jeffrey. He was 39 years old when he was murdered. His big, bald, decapitated head sits gingerly on his lap as his hand picks at the open wound between his shoulders where his head used to be attached. His body is yet to be found, and I'm starting to think it never will be. If they do find it, they won't find the head that goes with the corpse. His murderer made sure of that. The last time his family saw him, he was on his way to work. His wife kissed him deeply before he walked out the front door. After 14 years of marriage, they were still madly in love. She's been a wreck for the last 3 weeks since he's been missing. A part of me feels bad for her, but what can he do, you know? Troy's made his way to the kitchen now, and I pull out 2 coffee mugs from the cupboard and I offer one to him. He rolls his eye at me. Oh right, you probably want a beer, don't you? Shit, I think I'm ball out. Get it? Eyeball out? No? Okay, whatever. He walks away from me and I laugh at my own terrible joke as I put one of the mugs back. I open the fridge and grab my hazelnut coffee creamer. I'll drink a full pot of coffee while getting ready for work this morning. And the same thing I do every morning. Jeff's decapitated head seems to be mouthing something to me. I ignore him as I watch my coffee finish brewing. I eagerly fill my mug with a Colombian breakfast brew and sweet milky hazelnut. It burns going down, but I finish the entire drink in several big gulps. I get a refill and I sip it on my way to the couch. I turn the volume up on my 52-inch and take a seat next to Jeffy Boy. A reporter is live, standing in front of the park just down the street from my building where a new body was found. I wonder if the camera crew will still be there when I'm on my way to work. This one is a teenage boy, 19 years old the day he died. His name is Trevor, and I'll see him walking out to my car in about 25 minutes when I leave for work. He loves dribbling his basketball right behind my car, always trying to make it look like I'm going to run him over while I'm backing out of my spot. That's how he was murdered, in fact. He was run over intentionally while walking home from the very park his partially flattened body was found. He was buried in a shallow grave in a small wooded area. The police combed the park multiple times looking for him. It's a wonder, or maybe just lazy police work, that they didn't find him in the first 2 searches. I hear a gargled moan coming from the hallway outside my apartment door, and I know immediately who it is. It's Jen. She was 23 years old when her throat was slit, and that's all she does now, that gross gargle. Police suspected her boyfriend as they normally do, and all the evidence pointed to him. He's already serving 3 years of a 25-year sentence. Poor guy, getting convicted of a murder you didn't commit. That's really gotta suck. I finish my coffee and make my way back to the kitchen for round 3. My eyes are still glued to the TV and I almost run into Troy, who's been standing in the doorway of my kitchen. "You're always in my way, man. Get a fucking life." Again, I chuckle to myself. I love bugging him. He just stands there lopsided with a blank expression on his face. I do a quick rinse of my pits in the kitchen sink, then once again head to the washroom. I put deodorant on and brush my teeth, and I hear sloshing in the tub behind me as Crystal shifts her body so she too can watch me. More wet and sticky hobbling comes from the hallway as I enter my bedroom. I dig through the pile of clothes spread across the floor. I'm looking for a shirt that doesn't smell too bad. On my 4th sniff, I hit the jackpot. This one actually smells clean. I keep putting off doing my laundry because Mrs. Doubtfire hangs out down there. That's not her real name, it's actually Kathy. But she does look like Robin Williams in the 90s movie, so that's what I call her. She was 61 years old when she took her last breath. I think she just loves the smell of the fabric softener that lingers in the air down there, and that's why she never leaves. Her murder wasn't a crime of passion or opportunity. She was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. She was the housekeeper of some rich asshole named Steven who was 50 when he was murdered in his mansion. He was busy with a pile of blow, listening to 80s rock as loud as his speakers would allow. I'm pretty sure it was Motley Crue. He didn't hear Kathy screaming before she was strangled to death. Not like it would have mattered either way. He was going to take a shotgun to the face regardless. It sucks for his spirit because he has no sense of direction. Every time I see him, he's wandering aimlessly, bumping into everything around him. Dumb, brainless bastard. He always seems to know which direction I'm in because whenever I'm close, he just beelines his way towards me. Once I'm ready for work, I rinse out my traveler's mug that's sitting on the counter next to my keys. I forgot to wash it when I got home from work yesterday. I turn to leave the kitchen and there's Troy blocking my exit yet again. "Man, I'm already running late. Can you get the fuck out of my way, please?" He steps aside and I flip him the bird as I grab my keys and walk out the front door. I lock it behind me and I hear Jen's gargling in my ear. I really wish you wouldn't do that so close to my face. It's really gross. I really hope that Troy stays here today, but as I hear the deadbolt slide into place, I also hear wet thudding approaching quickly on the opposite side of the door. Then an arm that's been severed just below the elbow moves through the solid wood. "I hope you can run faster than that, Troy. I'm taking the stairs today." I hurry towards the stairwell and run down it as fast as I can, jumping down 3 steps at a time. I think I've lost him, but as I approach my car, I see Troy and Trevor loitering behind the beat-up Civic. I sigh and shake my head in defeat. Maybe I'll beat him down here tomorrow. I take a swig from my coffee and savor the sweet taste before setting it on the roof of my car. I look at the dents in the stainless steel of my to-go mug from that one time I was running late and started driving with it sitting right where it is now. "Yo, One-Eyed Willie, you coming or not? 'Cause I'm leaving." He and Trevor exchange glances that make me feel uneasy, and another sigh escapes my throat. I grab my mug and slide into the driver's seat. On my 3rd attempt, the engine finally roars to life. I know the old girl doesn't have much life left in her, but it could be worse. At least she's not missing an eye. Am I right, Troy? I turn to Troy with an open-mouthed smile. I get nothing. My joke goes ignored by Troy already sitting next to me. His feet, foot and stump, disappear into the collection of cardboard coffee cups that litter the floor. I check my mirrors and Trevor wears a horrified look as if he's about to get mowed down. I shake my head and begin to back out anyway. I hear sobbing and a slight banging coming from the trunk of my '93 Classic. And that's Brittany. She was 31 years old when it was her time to go. Another one whose spouse was blamed for the murder. His case is still ongoing though, but I'm pretty sure they'll find him guilty as well. They'll never know that she and Jen were murdered by the same person. Britt suffocated in a suitcase in her husband's trunk. It wasn't until her corpse began to stink up the neighborhood that her bruised and beaten body was found. I pull out of the parking garage and I see Steven's holy head spin around. He'd be looking right at me if he had eyes. Look at Stefan, it could be worse. At least you could still see. And there's that judgy look again, cool. Steven starts his sprint toward me, but I speed up and lose him quickly. A few minutes later I pull into a local cafe. The barista is so cute. Her name's Amanda, and she's very much alive. We flirted on more than a few occasions when I stop in to get my morning coffees. Troy stays in the car while I head in. Amanda and I smile and talk casually as she pours sweet, sweet Java into 2 takeout cups. At least one of them will be added to the ever-growing pile on the dirty floor of my Honda, but she doesn't know that. I've been working up the nerve to ask Amanda out for dinner and drinks for a while now. I know she'll say yes, or I hope she will anyway. But I've always been a bit wary when it comes to talking to women. I get back to my car where Troy is waiting for me, eyeing the time. I know, I'm running late. Hell, my boss knows I'm running late. It's become a common thing, so I know I'll be staying late today to make up for the missing time. I sit in traffic, trying to drown out the sobs and thudding coming from the boot with talk radio that emits from the only speaker that still works in this POS trash can on wheels. We're slowly creeping up to the overpass that Kyle was pushed from 2 years ago. He was 27 years old when he fell to his death. I see his broken body standing in the middle of the road. He'd probably cause an accident if I wasn't the only one who could see him. He was another special one, ruled a suicide. His family still doesn't believe it though. He had an amazing life, he came from money, he was well liked, had a great job, and a baby on the way. Last I heard, his parents were still up the ass of the police department to reopen the case, but I know they won't. I see Troy shaking his head in my peripheral vision. You really gotta stop judging people, you judgmental asshole. It's honestly a wonder you weren't murdered sooner, I swear. I pull into the parking lot at work. It's a very plain, nondescript office building. There's a little coffee shop here that I could go to save time in the morning, but the coffee is shit and I've grown fond of my chit-chats with Amanda. I hit the call button for the elevator and I wait, finishing off the second of my dark roast travelers. I toss the empty container into the trash. The elevator dings and the doors slide open. I see my former coworker, Chris. He was 36 when he went missing about 8 months ago. He had a pretty bad gambling addiction. He owed a lot of people a lot of money. And those people, they're probably looking for him too. Another body that the authorities will never find. Even if they did, they'd never be able to identify him. He was left with no teeth for dental records and the tip of every single finger was detached with tin snips. That must have been brutal, knowing you're about to die, but at the same time knowing that you'll be buried as a John Doe if they even find your body. Yeesh. It's really a shame. After his murder, disappearance, his wife had to file for bankruptcy. She had no idea that their life savings were lost at various casinos around the city. It's just the 3 of us in the elevator, and I try to make small talk, but my attempts are either ignored or unnoticed. Let's be honest, they're ignoring me. Okay then, you 2 are great company. Always good chatting with you, Chris. Come along, Cyclops. Troy and I step off the metal death box held up by wires that I've never been 100% confident in. The first thing I do is head for the break room where Sylvia is standing naked as the day she was born and died at age 33. Like Troy, she's missing body parts, but unlike Troy, she has both eyes. When she was murdered, her killer took his time. He thoroughly enjoyed every second of her torment. She was kept alive for weeks before finally being allowed to die. Her body was found in 3 separate dumpsters. She's definitely one of the better looking murder victims I see. Great rack on her. I try to avoid looking directly at her chest and I start brewing a pot of Joe. I'm no pervert, but I am totally a breast man. I stare at the dark brown liquid pouring in a steady stream into the glass pot when I hear a voice from behind me. It's my boss, slightly scolding me for being 23 minutes late. I blame it on traffic and he changes the topic to the body that was found in the park in the early morning hours. I don't take my eyes off the coffee pot while I answer his questions. Yes, it did happen really close to my place. No, it doesn't bother me. I didn't know the kid and it has nothing to do with me. Other than the fact that he relentlessly bounces his goddamn basketball behind my fucking car every morning. I select the largest mug from the cupboard that I can find. I bet Mike already snagged the biggest one. Mr. Brown-nosing kiss-ass always gets here early. He knows I like that one, that's probably why he took it. I mix my nectar of the gods with a generous helping of cream and sugar and sip it heading to my desk. I'll be back in 15 minutes for a refill. Sylvia eyes me as I walk past. Again, I try to avoid looking directly at her boobs, but she can see my eyes drift. I make eye contact with Troy, who's watching me, and I roll my eyes at him. Sitting at my desk, I'm distracted by Carl hanging from a noose outside the only window I get a view from. He was 29 years old when he was killed by the tire iron from his own truck. Thanks, Carl. I really enjoyed that view before you were murdered. He's another victim that is yet to be found, and one that will never be found. In life, he was a construction worker and he was buried on site the night before a concrete slab was poured over his final resting place. He too left behind a wife and kids. Troy lingers behind me as I drain the last sip from my cup. Damn, that one went fast. It's almost 10 now and I've yet to get any work done. I move past Troy as I make my way back to the break room. Yet again, Sylvia is waiting for me and I can't help but smile at her. I start thinking about Amanda and I find myself wondering what she'll be wearing to the gym tonight. She doesn't know that I signed up for a year membership 2 weeks ago using a fake name. I've been to the gym multiple times, but other than the treadmill, I haven't used any of the equipment. She hasn't even noticed me there, but I notice her. A wet thumping sound ruins my daydream of Amanda. Damn it, Troy! I give Sylvia a nod before heading back to my desk. On my way out of the break room, a little girl on a broken tricycle blocks my path. Olive's murder was technically vehicular manslaughter. Sadly, she was only 11 when her life ended tragically. Her killer didn't see her slowly cruising down the side of the street when he left work, speeding through a residential area, driving well above the posted speed limit. The police called it a hit and run, which is totally what happened, but they're looking for the wrong kind of vehicle, so he'll never be caught. Her poor parents must be torturing themselves for not keeping an eye on her that day. It breaks my heart to think that the collision was accidental. She was just starting her life. The rest of the workday goes by quickly, but it feels like an eternity as I'm surrounded by all these poor victims. At 4:30, I've already stopped working, but I make it look like I'm busy for the next 53 minutes to make up for my tardiness this morning. The coffee shop in the building is about to close up for the night by the time I get there, Troy hobbling slowly behind me. He's become my shadow over the last 6 years, and sometimes I think I'll miss him if he ever leaves my side. I order 2 extra larges of whatever they have left. She hands me a tray with 3 drinks and tells me that they're pretty old, so they're all on the house. I don't mind old coffee if there's enough sweetness to them. I thank her and walk out the front door of the building, and Kelly is there. She was 21 years old when she was murdered in a blind rage. She's dragging her legless torso in my direction, leaving a trail of blood and bile behind her that only I can see. It'll be gone when I get here in the morning, but it'll happen again when I leave work this time tomorrow. Such a disgusting time loop she's stuck in. Her murder was a crime born of revenge. She cut off the wrong guy during the evening commuter traffic on the highway. He honked at her and she flipped him off. He was overwhelmed with anger. Instead of taking a breath, getting over the nothing conflict and heading home or even to the gym to blow off some steam, he followed her to her complex. She cut him off, so he cut off her legs and let her bleed out and die just inside the doorway of her townhouse. Her boyfriend arrived home shortly after, but it was already way too late. I get to my car and I wait for Troy to catch up. While I wait, I notice the mutilated body of Devin. He was 32 when he was cut into pieces, which now lay in the backseat of my car. Another pang of phantom anger rushes over me. I think about the amount of work that would go into cleaning the bloody mess out of my already coffee-stained backseat. He's looking at me with desperation in his eyes, as if somehow I can help him with his situation. Before Devin was murdered, he was a personal trainer at Amanda's gym. He was all about his appearance, and the ladies flocked to him. He would always use the same excuse. He would say that he had a long-term, long-distance girlfriend, but the reality of it was that he was just super gay and deep in the closet. That's actually how his murderer was able to get close enough to do this to him. He honestly seems like he was a super great guy in life. I mean, I don't swing that way, but who the hell am I to judge? To each their own. Troy finally limps his lazy ass around to the passenger side door and floats his way into the seat. We make it back to my apartment and it's a little after 6:30. Amanda usually gets to the gym around 7, so I try my best to get ready as fast as possible and go. Troy agrees to wait in the car so I don't have to wait for him to hobble his way back. In the elevator on my way back down, it stops on the 4th floor and the door's open. Nicole walks in backwards, her head lulled all the way back. She was 38 when her murderer was interrupted and almost caught killing her. He was 3/4 of the way through decapitating her. There was so much blood found at the crime scene. Very gruesome. The officer who was first to respond to the call sent in his resignation 2 days later after the horrific sight. I don't blame him. The rest of the way down, I think of a clever way to make a nearly headless Nick joke, but I come up empty. The bell dings, indicating that I've made it to parking level 2. I leave the elevator yelling out my Harry Potter reference crudely with a laugh. I get back to my shitbox and Troy's looking at me disapprovingly. You heard that, did you? Come on, that's funny. Her name's Nicole. Like Nick? Get it? Ah, whatever, you're no fun. I back out with gusto, looking Trevor in the eyes through my rearview mirror as I do so. By the time I make it to the gym, it's already 7:09 and I'm late. I watch through the window as Amanda's already started her squats. I'll have to find somewhere else to park so she doesn't see me getting out. Once I park near the back door, I make my way around the building and head inside. She's on the step climber now with her headphones in and I walk right behind her. Still, she doesn't notice me. She has an amazing body. She definitely doesn't need to come in here 4 times a week. In the changing room, I look in the mirror. Today is the day I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna finally ask her out on a date. I close my eyes and take 3 deep breaths. I open them and now there's a few people standing right behind me. I recognize their faces immediately. Obviously, Troy is here. He limped in with me. Now he's joined by some of the others. Jeffrey has his head tucked under his left arm. Stephen is next to him, blood dripping from the gaping hole where his face used to be. I'm not sure how he made it this far, but he did. On the other side of me are Chris and Carl. While Carl just hangs there from his noose, face colored blue from lack of oxygen, Chris opens his mouth in a grotesque, toothless grin. He starts spelling something out on the mirror with his blood-caked finger. Stump? I don't wait to see what he's writing. I desperately need a coffee. I turn away from the group and head out to the gym's cafe. I get a venti with 3 shots of espresso. I don't wait for it to cool before I down 1/3 of it. Fuck, that's hot, but oh my god, is that good. I love the coffee here. I realize this one won't be enough, so I order a second, pay for it, and find a table with a view of the entire interior. After about 25 minutes, I come to terms with the fact that I won't be running tonight, not on the treadmill anyway. I see Amanda toweling the sweat off her forehead. She's headed for the changing room on the other side of the open establishment. I figure now's not the best time to ask her out. Maybe tomorrow. I look at Troy, who's sitting in the seat beside me. Thank God it's just the 2 of us again. I ask if he wants to go grab a beer and he frowns at me. I smile, apologize, and tell him that I'm just fucking with him. I get up and get one more venti for the road and proceed to walk out to my car. I sit patiently, waiting for Amanda. Finally, there she is. She gets into her sporty red Mazda and I try to start my car. As per usual, it doesn't turn over right away. If this is when my car dies, I'm going to be all sorts of pissed off. After the 4th try, the rumble of the engine fills me with joy. I put it in gear and I follow her. We arrive at her apartment as the sun is finishing its descent in the sky. I always love this excited feeling. I wait for her to enter her building. I decide to give her an extra 5 minutes to get settled in. I open my door quietly and I do the same as I close it. I cautiously make my way to the back of her building. Lucky for me, the door is propped open with a small rock wedged between the door and the frame. I head up to the 2nd floor and I find her apartment. Number 17. I build up my courage, and I knock. I wake up in the morning and I see Troy. He stares at me from the corner of my bedroom, always watching me. Damn, this place is still a mess. He looks at me as if he's judging me like the smug asshole he probably was when he was alive. He's not the only ghost I see, but he was the first. By my count, I'll see 17 murder victims throughout my day. I go through my morning routine at home, grab my keys, and lock the door behind me. Despite my best efforts, I get to my car and find Troy and Trevor waiting for me yet again. By the time I get to the cafe that Amanda works at, my coffee supply has been depleted. I walk in and I smile at Amanda when I see her. Today, she doesn't return the sentiment. It's another barista who greets me with a smile today. His name tag reads Brian. I ask him how Amanda managed to get the day off today. His smile fades and he tells me that no one's heard from her since the end of her shift yesterday. He explains that people have tried calling her and even sent the police to her apartment to do a welfare check. They're still looking into it, but it's as if she's disappeared. I express my concern, tell him I hope that she's okay, and wish that they have luck in finding her. Amanda stares at me blankly. Her mouth is gagged and her hands are tied firmly behind her back. She was 30 years old when her murderer strangled her to death with his bare hands so that there was a little mess to clean up. He didn't enjoy killing her. He would have much rather taken her out on a date to a nice fancy restaurant. He couldn't help himself, though. Maybe he just had to get it out of his system. That should hold him over for a couple months at least. It's a shame that I won't be enjoying any more morning flirtations with Amanda, but I find solace in knowing that at least I'll see her every day.